Hello there. This is Dr. Mark DeBrinket, and I am with Irene Vaxberg. And today is December 11th, 2019. And she's a little emotional today because she just saw her brain map after, I think it was about 17 months of wearing the socks and the insoles and the patch and Vox technology 24/7. So let's go ahead and share the screen because we have some really exciting stuff to share with everybody today. All right. So what we're seeing here on the left was 17 months ago with her tech on. When I showed her the map of her baseline before she even had the socks on, it was entirely red. Every aspect of the brain was red, and we had a very difficult time actually getting her map done because the shaking was so tremendous. As soon as she took her tech off, she would shake so violently that it looked like she was going to hurt herself, but also I just couldn't get a good clean signal on the brain when she was shaking so much. So we literally recorded like 5 minutes of brain mapping in order to get about 10 seconds of good clean recording initially. Then we put the tech on, and it was like all the chaos went away. It was an absolute miracle. And we understand why she wasn't shaking and feeling that way when the tech was on. And took it off, and immediately she started shaking again. So the image we're seeing on the left side of the screen here is with her tech on. This was the best that she could do 17 months ago. And then the image on the right was today with her tech on. And with her tech off, didn't look a whole lot different than it does now. Maybe just a little bit more color in it, but for the majority, 90% of her brain is gray. Gray here is normal. When we see the brain turn yellow, it means it's 2 times too fast. And when we see it red, it's 4 times too fast. Now you might think to yourself, hey, having a faster brain means I'm smarter, right? No, it doesn't. It's bombarding those signals so fast, it's confusing it, and it's making it get very frustrated when it's not understanding what you're trying to say or what you're trying to share information-wise. So imagine being in a very crowded room and trying to talk to one person, but you're hearing like every 5th word. And it's like, it's so important that I hear what you're saying, but I just can't. It's really challenging. That's somebody with the brain and the cortex all red. On the other side of the equation, if it were to be all blue, this is just taking really long time to respond and to feel anything. They're pretty much numb and just aren't really thinking anything, okay? And so we want, ideally, the brain to be all gray. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of move these around so you can see the extent. We have much better visualizations now with the new software than we did a year and a half ago. But back here is cortex, and this is the cerebellum. This is the part of the brain that allows all motor function. So we know why she was shaking so much. This thing was just lit up, okay? And so all of her muscles were just jumping all over the place. Now,
Sorry.
now we come back here and we could see under much greater control, even even with no red in there, obviously she's not sitting here shaking. She can literally take the tech off herself now and go about 20 hours before it starts to fall apart again. So this is the gray matter. This is the part of your brain that regulates about 2,000 pieces of data every second for every little morsel of brain tissue. Like we call it a little cube, about 7 millimeters by 7 millimeters. And that's considered a voxel. You have 12,800 voxels that are making up these images. So let's go ahead and get rid of the cross sections of the brain. And now we're seeing different Brodmann areas. And in here, this is a 2-dimensional image of what we're seeing 3-dimensionally right here, as if I flattened it. And I'm trying to connect this parts of the brain to other parts of the brain. You shouldn't see any lines on this circle drawing here. So we can see far less lines over here, okay, as far as being dysregulated. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and even take those off, and we're going to start looking inside the brain. So now we have the ability to go 3D and to really get into the nooks and crannies of the neurology of the brain. And what I mean by that is what you're neurologically, what you're actually doing, okay? And so inside the brain, we have all these fibers that make up what we call diffuse tensor imaging. And these are just the pathways that you're sending information from part A to part B in the brain. So in this scenario, the blue fibers are connecting front to back, green top to bottom, and then the reds are right to left. And so you're getting an idea of how many fibers there are. Let's go ahead and match it on this side, and we can see how many fibers there are. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is take away all the healthy ones and only show you the ones that are not healthy. So ideally, there shouldn't be any lines left, okay, when your brain is super healthy. Again, 4 times too fast, dark blue is 4 times too slow. And then we come over here and say, well, how much of that change has been permanent now? So this is tremendous. Remember, red is 4 times. So the majority of all the red is gone. We can clearly see through the image now. And you see the white behind it. We're over here. You weren't getting past it. This was so thick of fibers that were offline. Now we're just dealing with a handful. And the longer you keep wearing this, the more and more of these fibers disappear. And we see eventually no fibers left. Okay. Now we can do neurofeedback training and change that in a month. But, you know, look at what a year and a half did as far as this is permanent change. There's no difference here. You got the tech on before, the tech on now. So the only difference is what's healed.
Wow.
Okay. So what we're looking at here is strictly information flow. This is how fast and how efficiently do you get information from point A to point B. Now, if we come up here and look at coherence, this is how well do you share information throughout the brain and throughout the network. So a network needs to send information to every other part of the network. So again, we see especially frontal cortex, super busy, very thick, a lot of blue lines. But watch this, we have something called lagged coherence. And this is how long can you actually sustain that focus and attention for. And I get much more concerned when I see reds and blues than all red or all blue. Because here, you were very unpredictable.
Right.
Okay, on how you were going to feel or how you were going to behave. Okay. Now when we looked at your lag coherence,
Wow.
that is just, that's 2 different people completely. It's awesome.
Now I'm going to laugh because it's amazing. I mean, wow.
The good thing is it's going to keep getting better,
Wow.
better and better. So now we're going to take away the fibers that you use to send information, and we're going to pull up the actual networks that are communicating. So the one that we're seeing here is called your executive functioning network. This is how well you can use your working memory, your mental flexibility, and self-discipline, self-control, motivation, and all of that. Again, each purple dot in the network has to send a line to every dot in the network. So if you are healthy, we shouldn't see any lines left at all. So we see 80% of them have gone, right?
Exactly.
All the dark blue, the reds. Again, I'm much more concerned seeing highs and lows because that's very unpredictable versus light blue. Okay, that's just a little slower than it should be, but that's less stress, okay,
Yes.
less anxiousness and all of that stuff, and more efficient trying to get something done that's going to require your focus and your attention. Now, when we look at your attention network, this is the network that controls your ability to recognize locations and features and objects and things that look familiar, okay, and sustain attention on those focus. So that's amazing.
Wow.
We look at attention ventral. This is your ability to shift that attention and be able to stop the project you're working on, and someone says, hey, Irene, I need help over here. Can you come help me? Are you like, sure, and you just drop it and come over here and help? Or you're like, wait a minute, I got like 2 minutes left. I got to finish this thing, okay? That was you before.
Right.
Okay? It was really hard just to keep pivoting and shifting without feeling completed or accomplished in one thing that you were doing. Now, I mean, just look at the difference there. That's truly
50%.
amazing. We look at, let's call it the anxiety network.
Yeah. Oh, that
I
was
imagine you had a
terrible.
lot of anxiety back in the day.
Yep.
You know, this is how well you can regulate that anxiety and the feelings that you're feeling. And you know that it might not be warranted. I might be making a big deal out of something little, but it still stresses me out, right? And so feeling is feeling, it's real. Okay. But
Yeah.
how well can I just turn that off? And you're like, you know what? I don't have all the facts right now. I don't think I'm going to let myself get stressed out until I know no more about this situation. Because I found in the past I had a lot of unnecessary crying and upsetness and anger at people that I just didn't have all the facts. And had I had the facts, I wouldn't have overreacted. Okay. So that's anxiety network. Now let's go down here and let's talk about your mood. Okay. Mood definitely could have been improved.
Yes. Just a smidge.
Really?
I'm happy now. Let's see how happy I am.
Okay, mood is much happier. Very, very nice. And then there's another one that's called your limbic system. Okay. Limbic system is your gear shifter in the car that allows you to make sure that the car is going the right speed that the gear that it's in.
Okay.
And if the car is going not the right speed that the gear is in, either the engine's whining or it's about to stall.
Okay.
Okay. Back here, you're very rarely we're in the right speed that your brain was on and synced, okay, and controlling that. Now here you're 80, 90% better, all right? So you just feel normal.
I'm running
right?
out of tissues.
That's a normal feeling, which is wonderful. And so I want to end with, and again, I haven't looked at this myself, so hopefully this doesn't change the video. But when we first started, we looked at the cortex, but it was the cortex compared to every other female your age's cortex.
Okay.
And gray is normal, and the reds and the blues are so forth. I'm going to switch it up now, and I'm going to compare this to you. Okay? So this is your brain compared to your brain. Okay?
Okay.
Meaning this spot compared to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, to everywhere. And look at how beautiful that brain looks now, and how balanced and homeostasis compared to all this blue. And again, this was the best of you a year and a half ago. All that blue in that front made everything so much harder to know what you want, know what you don't want, the speed in which you're making decisions, the decisions that you're actually making. And then back here, you had, a whole lot of high stuff going on, lots of the yellows and the reds down the cerebellum. That was, even though this was with the tech on, you weren't shaking, you were still on the verge of shaking.
Yeah.
It was like we just took you past that threshold just a little bit. Now you have so much more reserve in all the motor function and all of your ability just to control your conscious thoughts. This is what you're consciously going on in your brain all day, and that's exactly the way you want it to be.
Peace and calmness and tears.
Awesome. Well, thank you for
Thank
traveling
you
all this way.
for doing this for us.
You're welcome.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in another year. Let's find out how long it took to get it all right.
Oh my God.
You have